Putting. Part of golf that has given me nightmares for the last decade, but really important nonetheless. One thing I do really enjoy though is putters themselves. And over the last 5 to 10 years, they have been changing. So right now it might be quite difficult for you to pick the correct putter for your game. So let's go through some select brands and pick the best putters of 2022 for you. Over the last few years, we've really seen the rise of the mallet putter. Blade putters are still important and they are still used quite consistently on tour, but for amateur golfers, these putters here are a little bit more common. Now, why is that? Well, you could think it could be down to looks, price, performance, things like that, and it is largely down to performance, and that is more to do with MOI, moment of inertia. I'm not going to bore you with the entire technology behind it. In layman's terms, the bigger the putter, usually the higher the MOI, the more forgiving it is, the less likely you are to pull or push your putts by the face rotating. One brand that I think has taken advantage of this the most, Odyssey. In 2022, Odyssey released a lot of putters. Too many, to be blunt, but some of them were really, really good. And the majority of them are mallet putters because that's what amateur golfers are now leaning to. But you may be thinking, what if my stroke is more down towards a blade putter? That could be correct. Nowadays, it's more a little bit ambiguous rather than completely designating a stroke to a putter design. With Odyssey's range, there are some varying prices from white hot all the way to Toulon. Two categories I do like with Odyssey is the 11, which is what I've got here, and also the Toulon, which we have covered extensively. The 11 is a mallet high MOI with varying sight lines that you can have. So you really do have quite a lot of customization. One thing I found with this is it is pretty fairly priced. Is it revolutionary? No. But for a putter that is kind of in that mid-range for price, what you do get is a really nice soft feel, an extremely well-balanced stroke lab shaft, and a really strong, nice grip. Not too big, not too small. What I think the Odyssey 11 has done is it's covered all bases here. It's a good price, it's a good design, it feels great, and it's very durable as well, so it's not exactly going to get a lot of marks on it. The 11 is very well priced, as I said. When you go into the premium range of Odyssey, the Odyssey Toulon, this is where I think they've made a really big improvement. We've covered the Toulon and the Toulon Garage this year. One's a lot more customizable than the other, and it has a premium price tag. We're not going to talk about the Garage that much because I think you guys should look at the video itself, which I'll put somewhere on the screen here. Each Odyssey Toulon putter does have a deep, full face of grooves, which I do think likens it a little bit to Scotty Cameron. It is a little bit cheaper than Scotty Cameron as well. What I do love about the Toulon range though is the way it looks. That really dark midnight green finish is something that I don't think any other putter offers. And like all of Odyssey, there is a lot to choose from, so there's not just one putter. Will these be the most forgiving in this video? No, but I do think they feel the nicest and they probably look the nicest as well. So if you're someone who wants a premium, nice feeling, gorgeous putter, the Odyssey Toulon is the way to go for in this video. Odyssey have had about 30 putters this year, but Taylormade, I only had about 4. Taylormade aren't typically known for their putters in recent years, but the Spider range has been very, very successful. This year they went slightly different with that classical Spider design and introduced the Spider GT range. And on first glance, it looked good, but it looked like the classic Taylormade of old. A little bit gimmicky, a little bit shiny, not as classical as some other putters. And although that may be the case, this one here stands out. The Taylormade Spider GT comes in around that mid-price range for a putter in 2022. One thing I did like is the technology they have put into it. We've got a really nice design, which is perimeter weighting, which you will see in a lot of other mallet putters today. This means they can increase the MOI as much as possible. The design at first I was a little bit apprehensive with, but in terms of alignment when you look down at it, it's extremely strong. You wouldn't think that one individual line would be that much of a positive alignment aid in comparison to others in this video. But the way in which the putter is designed does make it incredibly nice to line up your putts. The most important thing and the best thing about this putter though, weirdly enough, is their brand new insert for 2022. Pure Roll 2 is the latest evolution of Taylormade's inserts, and you wouldn't think too much of it, but I do think this putter rolls one of the best that I have seen in 2022, and that's across the entire face. Oh, I've got to make a putt in this video. Does it feel the best? I don't think so. So that's why for some putters you've got an all-around performance, but I think the roll and the design you get with this, you do lack a little bit of feel. So if it's feel you're after, I'd go for another putter. But if it's a true roll and a really confident design, I'd definitely take a look at the Taylormade Spider GT because you can actually get some really good deals as well. Now, Taylormade and Odyssey have made putters for years, but if we actually go back to 2021, let's talk about Cobra. In 2021, Cobra burst back onto the scene with the Cobra Vintage and 3D putter range. One putter really stood out to me, and and that was the 3D Supernova, one that I've got in my hand today. The 3D putters for Cobra were all about high MOI, which you will see in other brands in 2022. I don't think there was anything that revolutionary with these Cobra putters, but I did really like the technology that they did put into it. The 3D layered lattice is a mouthful to begin with, but it also means you can save as much weight as possible. Similar to the Taylormade Spider GT, there were some negatives, but one big positive, and that is that roll. Despite them all being Cobra putters, they did actually partner up with Sick Golf to get their face. And the face has variable loft in it, meaning that up and down the face, you've got different amounts of loft. And that's because people hit the ball in different ways. So depending on your angle of attack, you will still get a very true roll to it. And initially I felt this was gimmicky. Initially I was a bit confused that they have partnered up with Sick, another putter brand, but it works really well. I did find that, especially for those 6 to 10 foot putts, they were rolling really true, but the only thing that it was lagging behind again is that feel. I wasn't really too surprised by this with Cobra because going on to a completely new putter range, I know they did some putters 10 years or so ago, but I didn't think it was going to be the perfect putter. I'm probably saving that for 2023, but the feel of it was a little bit muted and wasn't as pleasing as other putters in 2021 going into 2022. Still though, the price was very, very competitive, especially with the vintage and even the 3D range as well, between 200 and 270 pounds. So when you're looking at other putters, which are arguably about double the price of these 3D putters, is it really worth it? What else are you getting for that extra 200 pounds? Yes, you'll probably get an increased feel, maybe a little bit more customization, but I don't think you're going to roll it any better with those ones as you do with this. Hey! As we mentioned Sick with putter, I think we're going to go on to these now. And as you can see, I've actually got 2 putters here with me today, and they are very, very different. We're going to go for the slightly more normal one first, which is the Sick Flow. I was fitted for this putter last year, and the fitting was really important because it made me realize what putter I need for my putting stroke. Not necessarily the actual design of it, but the weighting and the actual hosel neck too, which I think is really, really important. The Sick Flow is a rather unorthodox mallet putter, but again, it's all about perimeter weighting here. And with that Sick face, it rolls really nicely. It is rather expensive, arguably a bit too expensive when you're comparing it to others in this video, but I don't really have anything negative to say about the Sick Flow. It feels very nice, perhaps a little bit clicky and not as soft as others, but in my opinion, I think it feels really nice, and I'm rolling it really positively, even when I'm hitting it out of the heel and out of the toe. I do think the insert is a little bit strange because it is quite small. The grooves are quite small and not across the entire face, which you could say makes it not as forgiving as other mallet putters, which I think is true, but I haven't really noticed any diminishing results in terms of my roll. I still think out of the heel and out of the toe, I'm getting very nice results. The other one, you can probably guess it because it's absolutely massive, is the Sick Pro C Series in arm lock. This one's about 46, 45 inches or so, and it's pretty similar to the one that big old Bryson DeChambeau uses, albeit with a slightly different shaft. Arm lock has come to fruition in the last 5 years or so when belly putters was banned, well, banned-ish, and now we've got this, and it's being used by some players on the PGA Tour. Do I think it's worth it? It's a really delicate question because arm lock putters aren't going to be banned. I don't think they're going to be banned ever, but it's not a cheat code. It's not necessarily going to make you a better putter. What I found is that if you are a bad putter, it can help. But if you're an okay putter, it's not going to make you any better. The actual Sick Pro C Series putter itself is very positive, very similar to the Flow in terms of the feel. It's a very simple blade putter, but arm lock itself, you can get an array of brands such as Cobra, Odyssey, pretty much all of them now do offer arm lock. Let's now go down the nostalgia route for a putter I reviewed very recently that's really cheap. Zebra announced their comeback in 2022, just a few weeks ago, and the AIT-1 looks very similar to the one that everyone fell in love with back in 1976. The main thing that surprised me with this putter is the price. At under £200, this really is a bargain. Initially, I thought, okay, if it's under £200, it's going to feel like a piece of metal, scrap piece, throw it away, it's going to be a not very good putter. But I was really impressed with, again, the insert and the alignment lines. It's a bit bigger of a mallet in comparison to the 1976 version, and it's a lot more contrasting as well with the alignment lines, which means it feels like you're overpowering the hole for those short putts. I really, really like this putter when trying it out, and I'm still contemplating trying it out in my bag for some competition rounds. I really feel like this can rival any putter between 150 and 300 pounds in 2022. The insert may not feel as nice as others in that category. It is a little bit hard, but again, you can negate that by using a slightly softer golf ball. At under 200 pounds, this really is a steal. In 2022, there is not just 1, 2, or 3 putter brands. There are literally hundreds. And there are some which have really risen in the last 4 or 5 years that you wouldn't have ever considered to be your putter. I think one of them is Evenroll. Evenroll do orthodox and unorthodox putters, and this one I have in my hands here is certainly not very normal. The Evenroll Zero is a very weird looking mallet putter, almost looks like a spaceship, and it is towards that upper premium price tag, which is a little bit risky for a brand that isn't that popular. But in fairness, this has been extremely successful. The Evenroll Zero is jam-packed with so much technology, and although its design is weird, it's also strange because of its forward pressing shaft. The technology is all about high MOI, low torque, meaning that you're very unlikely to pull or push your putts. And I do think that is the case. By having this perimeter weighting that you can very easily see and the massive hole right in the middle of the putter, you can clearly see that they have redesigned this putter in mind of forgiveness. I've ummed and ahed with this putter for the last 2 or 3 months, and although I'm not putting well with it right now, I do think about that notion of you can't really pull or push your putts. That is the case. I did find it very difficult. Don't worry, I did do it, but I did find it very difficult to pull or push my putts on my desired target line. The feel of it itself, again, lagging behind in comparison to some other ones in these categories. It feels a little bit tinny, let's say, a little bit hard, quite similar to the Zebra putter. So I would really recommend using a softer golf ball for the Evenroll Zero. Although we've talked about 7 or so putters, I do think there is still a market for a putter like this with a lot of technology to feel good. So I do think perhaps with some brands, by packing so much technology into it, sometimes it's lacking a little bit of feel with that insert or with that milled face. But I do think we do see that with Scotty Cameron, and I do think some other brands will really jump to that very soon. For instance, the last one we're going to talk about today. So the last putter we're going to talk about today is Bettinardi, and the Bettinardi Innovi 8.0, another mallet putter that has a similar story to the others, all about confidence and forgiveness. What I do like about this putter is it is a multi-material putter. So you do have 303 stainless steel for the face, but then when you're going back into it, it's actually got 6061 aluminium. This again is all about that high MOI forgiveness factor with mallet putters. What I was really impressed about with this putter, although I wasn't that keen on the design and the wings it has, is it does feel really good for a putter that is 303 stainless steel. Personally, I just didn't like how it looked down at address because it was a little bit too compact, but that is purely a personal preference. With putters, I could say one thing's good and one thing's bad. You could look at both the next day and you could absolutely hate the one that I loved and love the one that I hated. So this is all just a little bit down to personal preference when it comes to design. One thing I fully didn't like about it though, is the grip. I wasn't a big fan of it. It's a little bit rigid and not very soft, and I don't think that's very good for amateur golfers in today's day and age. I think we're looking towards a little bit thicker of a grip that's a little bit softer. But again, just my preference. We've gone through a lot of putters today, guys, and you're probably wondering which one is the best. I think that question is a little bit difficult because they all have very different price tags. If we're narrowing it down a little bit to the cheaper options, I think Cobra and Zebra are both extremely positive ones to choose from. Cobra though does have a lot more options in comparison to Zebra. I do think it feels a little bit better. With both of them you can get some very good deals, but I do think the Cobra is a little bit more forgiving. So if you want one that's a little bit budget, between 150 to 250 pounds, I would say go for the Cobra. If we're then going for kind of that mid price tag or so, we've got a few to choose from. But I would say the Odyssey 11 is a really positive choice because in terms of all the putters that I have talked about today, I think the Odyssey 11 is a really strong all-around package. I think with every single putter I've talked about, I have said there is a little bit of a negativity because I have to be completely honest. With the Odyssey 11, I don't really think there is. When you get towards that upper price tag, the big premium scary putters that you really want to look into and do a lot of research for, this is quite a difficult one because it's so expensive and everyone's going to be different. All the ones I've talked about today I do think are really good options, with my personal preference being the Sick Flow or the Odyssey Toulon. Both very different putters. The Odyssey Toulon, you're going for a more class design, whereas the Sick Flow, you're going a little bit more in terms of performance and forgiveness. At the end of the day though, with the premium price tags, you are always kind of looking towards those Scotty Camerons as a comparison. Do I think the Odyssey Toulon or do I think the Sick Flow beats them? I'm not too sure. As always guys, I will put the links for all of these putters, there was a lot, in the description to this video. Although this is the best putters video of 2022, a little birdie has told me there may be a few more coming in the next few months. So stay tuned for that and if I do think it's better, I'll absolutely say in those reviews. Guys, if you are new to GolfMagic, smash that subscribe button because it really helps us out for these types of videos. We've done extensive testing for all the putters here, and if you think we've missed any out, please let me know down in the comments. We've got a few more showcases to come in September, such as best wedges, best golf balls, and a few more that I'm not going to mention. So then, until the next video, guys, I'll see you later.